Speaking of college athletics, let me get you some breaking news. Can we have our breaking news sounder, Jack Farrell? Breaking news sounder. This has just come down from our friend Ross Dellinger at Yahoo Sports. And what as we said for months now here on Game Time. Hopefully you tune into Game Time to learn about what's going on and not, as I heard yesterday, Noah, when the House settlement came in Friday night, all I heard yesterday was complaining about it, and I don't like it. It's dumb. Doesn't make sense. It's like, y'all, as I said to our audience in the 6 o'clock hour, if this hadn't happened and this hadn't settled, this House case was going to court this year.
Right. And
the college sports was going to lose to the tune of $5 billion. And that's one of three cases that came together in this case, in this settlement. 3 cases were settled with one agreement. The House case and 2 others. What I'm saying is that the House case was going to court this year.
Right.
And you were losing it to the tune of $4 to $5 billion. That's just one of the 3. So they put them all together, and it's $2.8 billion. This is a better settlement. Would you prefer the alternative of bankrupting the entire industry?
Oh, goodbye college sports.
Right.
As we know it.
And I'm tired of these lazy takes of people that won't read something and look at it and say, y'all,
lazy. This
is where this was headed. The tipping point is here. This was the crossroads. And so whether this agreement is perfect or not, which it's not, but it's a giant step forward. And as I think, and I agree with Greg Sankey, as Greg Sankey said in his statement following the decision, it's called it a significant milestone, meaningful support for our student athletes, but a pivotal step towards modernizing college athletics while establishing long-term sustainability for college sports. But what have we also said here on Game Time ad nauseum? This settlement has to come with a codification from the U.S. federal government. Because without it, it's a step forward.
Right.
But the lawsuits will continue to hound them. Well, how about this? Just this morning, Ross Dellinger put this out. The major conferences have released a statement in unison. This is the ACC, the Big Ten, the SEC, the Big 12, and the Pac-12. All power conferences have released a statement applauding the discussion draft of a new House bill that is circulating this week. Per a copy of the bill would grant the NCAA protections, also the protections, meaning antitrust,
right,
from lawsuits, athlete health care, scholarships, state preemption, and House codification. What you'd expect from this new bill. The new bill was expected, as reported last week by Ross Dellinger. He says it comes as the House Energy and Commerce Subcommittee plans to hold a congressional hearing on Thursday over the bill's concept. So that's where we're headed. And again, you can complain about it, you can hate it, but again, it had to happen. Without the settlement, there is no college sports within this year potentially, because if they're on the hook for $5 billion in a House settlement, they're done. And that's one of 3 settlements or 3 cases that would have gone to court in the next 180 days, the next year. That needed to happen. But and as I said, when I simplify this thing to myself, you guys can say I don't know what I'm talking about, but the people who have been the same people who hate this settlement as it came down Friday and made their opinion very clear yesterday. And I saw a lot and read a lot. Those were the same people calling for guardrails and rules in the Wild Wild West. Well, read the settlement. There are guardrails. There are rules. Here's your salary cap. Here's how much you can spend. Right. You can decide where you spend it within your athletic department. Here are rules for NIL and third-party deals. They're sitting there. The question is going to become, if it's going to work, is how the new rules and guidelines are enforced, and will those who have agreed to them abide by them? That's what we're talking about here. If you're opting into this, remember, you don't have to opt into this settlement. You can opt out and go on your own and go your own way. But if you opt in, you're essentially agreeing to abide by the guardrails and the rules that are in the settlement. And now the new police force, which I mentioned earlier, Noah, but it bears repeating. We talked about it yesterday. There already has been an executive named to run the new College Sports Commission. Brian Seeley has been named. He is from Major League Baseball, where he has been working for the last decade plus for MLB as an investigator for Major League Baseball. So he is now the new and the first executive. Brian Seeley takes the role of the College Sports Commission executive. So that's a name to know. So again, here's the black and white, issuance of, okay, here's who's going to be in control of this thing. We are going to police it. And you can be skeptical of it. You can think it's not going to work. That's fine. But for it to work, they have to police it. There has to be swift punishment. And then, those who have agreed to opt into this thing have to abide by it.
What I would ask the people that have problems with it is that wanted the guardrails that you're talking about is what would you do? I mean, what is another alternative for this?
They don't have one.
Exactly. Just want it their way, even though they don't even know what their way is. Yeah. I mean, listen, nothing's perfect, like you mentioned, E, but I mean, this is huge.
Well,
let's
also say this settlement
to happen.
The settlement has happened because the universities and the leadership of college athletics wouldn't get their act together for a decade.
Right.
They wouldn't, and people blame the NCAA, but the NCAA is beholden to the leadership of college athletics.
Right, they need to come together.
And clearly they can't agree on anything, so they need help from this settlement. This settlement had to be put in place, and okay, we'll agree to that by outside forces, and now they're going to need the help of the federal government because they can't get their house in order. Now, this is as close as the house has been to being in order in a long time, because let's just call it black and white. What this settlement is an admittance that we've been running an illegal operation for a long time. We're conceding that, and we're willing to pay $2.8 billion in back pay, and we're willing to agree to $20 billion in the next 10 years. But as we played from Jay Billis last hour, Jay Billis was on the Rich Eisen show yesterday, who is an attorney and a litigator. He laid it out and said, guys, this is just an injunction. This is a 10-year injunction. The judge is saying, okay, we're going to let this be the case for the next 10 years. You have 10 years to get your house in order and to take this, because when it ends in 10 years, are you ready to handle it? Are you ready to have it in place? And what you're seeing now are the universities going to Congress in Washington, D.C. and saying, okay, we're not going to be able to get our house in order here. Can you just make this law? Take this settlement and put some protections around it, codify it, and make it law. That'd be good for us. And that's where we are. But those are guardrails, y'all. I can't. If I hear one more time, we need rules. Well, their rules are sitting right there. Read the settlement. There are rules in place. Now you have to abide by them.
Yeah.
And now you have to police them and punish them. And the idea of, well, this never happened before with the NCAA. Okay, that's fair. But let's see what happens now. There is a new world order. There is a new way of things starting 3 weeks from this morning. And we'll all watch it and go. But let me just say, this is a giant step forward based on the alternative. Can we all agree to one thing? Without this, and they lose the case by December, this shuts down. The whole thing. Because they've been running an illegal operation against antitrust rules for our country for a long time and have gotten away with it. So here's where the rubber is meeting the road. Speaking of that, I'm not a very smart person, but I always like to hang around smart people like you and Jack, It's been a goal of mine. let me hang around smart people.
Yeah,
next hour, in the 8 o'clock hour, one of the smartest I know will join us, Lawrence Temple, who's a graduate of both Texas undergrad and UT Law School. He's going to join us. He's currently a partner with C3 Presents, but he's been he's clerked on the U.S. Court of Appeals. He's
teaching an NIL class.
Yes,
I heard
and right now
this is the ideal.
I reached out to LT because I said, look, and I've been texting with Lawrence for a while about, hey, once this case finally settles, can we chat? And because right now, in the fall and the spring, he's teaching a course at UT Law School about NIL, and it reads. He sent me a syllabus. At the end of his syllabus, it says, at conclusion of this course, hopefully each student will have an understanding of the following: the history of NIL, how we got here, and what the future might look like. So we will ask LT some of those questions that he's teaching to the future lawyers of the 40 acres. That'll be coming up at 8:10. So, and we'll ask him those questions. I promise he won't have all the answers, but we'll at least get Lawrence's opinion from a very educated place. NFL, so 25 teams go to minicamp over the next 2 or 3 days. If you're saying, what about the other 70? Well, the Bears held their camp last week. That's where we had the Caleb Williams conversations of last week. The Ravens, Chiefs, Giants, Seahawks, and Rams will hold theirs next week because it's up to the team when they want to have it. Those 5 other teams will do it next week. And the Detroit Lions, your team, are not having a minicamp this week because they're playing in the Hall of Fame game.
They are.
And
they've
elected to have a longer training camp because of the Hall of Fame game. They'll play L.A., so they're not having a minicamp.
July 31st. I'm already counting down the days.
But all 25 other teams will, and they'll begin today.
Yes.
And essentially, as we said, you go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Most teams will give their guys the day off Thursday, and they'll go off for a month off. But here was the big news of yesterday: the Houston Texans making a move in free agency.
As far as the money goes, and you're right, Tom, within the last hour or so, this has been signed and officially official. Nick Chubb passed his physical, a member of the Houston Texans. The deal 1 year, $2.5 million, much of that fully guaranteed, has a chance to make $5 million, which for a veteran running back on a new team is really a sign that they believe not just he's going to make the team, obviously he's going to make the team, but going to really contribute. And really, the Houston Texans, they already have Joe Mixon. Obviously, they have C.J. Stroud running that offense. But when they dealt with some injuries, they struggled a little bit last year. What this is excellent depth. Excellent depth with one of the best leaders in the NFL. Certainly, this is someone the Cleveland Browns will have to replace in the locker room.
All right, so there's the official word from Ian Rappaport yesterday. And as I've said, consider me very intrigued with the idea of adding this player to this offense. When he's healthy, we're talking about he's an all-decade talent in the NFL. Now, 5.1 yards per carry. But obviously he's had 2 significant knee injuries, one in college and one a couple years ago. He's 29 years old, but is it fair to say that could you maximize what's left in an offense where he's sharing a workload with Joe Mixon, who's a workhorse himself? I think he was the only back in the NFL to have upwards of 5 games with 30 or more carries last year. And they don't want that on Joe Mixon. They want him to have some help, and that's what Nick Chubb is. And they also drafted the 4th-round rookie Woody Marks
out of USC
as a change of pace. Yes. He's kind of a really dynamic player out of the backfield.
Oh, that's great.
But it's also another clear indicator of what Texans head coach DeMeco Ryans had to say. Remember when they lost to the Chiefs in the playoffs, and the Texans, for some achieved, but they didn't beat the Chiefs, and they were their own worst enemy in that football game. There were some bad calls penalty-wise, but DeMeco Ryans and the Texans just didn't put their best foot forward in a game that was winnable. They gave the Chiefs a good game, but they weren't good enough when it mattered most. Listen to DeMeco Ryans. This has been clearly their offseason path.
Look at this year specifically. I am proud of our guys and for accomplishing what we accomplished this year, to win a division, to get into the playoffs, right? Get to the divisional round. Like, I'm proud of our guys for that. But for me as a coach, as a competitor, that's not what I put all the work in for, is just to get to the divisional round and just be excited about that just because of where the Texans were before. I'm just supposed to be pleased with getting to the divisional round. That's not why I work. Like, I work to win, and we didn't get the job done. We didn't make enough plays to win the game, to get over the hump. So for me, it's like good year, but not good enough.
All right, so not good enough. And let me just say, that was way back in January.
Yeah.
And it's safe to say they've backed that up. He and GM Nick Caserio have gone kind of scorched earth to repair their broken offense. They've shattered any notions of loyalty and patience. Ryans, we had started with him firing his friend and coaching mentor Bobby Slowick after just 2 years. Now, remember, Bobby Slowick was getting job interviews as a head coach, but DeMeco looked at it and said, that wasn't good enough.
No.
You're my buddy, but you're out.
Hey.
Offensive line coach went with him as well. They also looked at the well-compensated but soft and underperforming offensive line, and Shaq Mason was cut outright. They traded Kenyon Green, a former first-round pick. They traded Laramie Tunsil because he wasn't, a type A in the locker room where they needed him to be.
They needed an alpha.
And he was kind of okay with making, 2 or 3 dumb penalties a game. And they replaced those guys with, toughness and youth and athleticism. We'll see if it works out. But they have gone to great ends to change the psychology of that line and the physicality of that line. They also, some smaller signings that most Texans, people that don't follow the Texans will not look at, but they signed a linebacker from Indianapolis named E.J. Speed, which is a great name. And I know DeMeco Ryans loves him. They signed him to put pressure on the young linebacker Christian Harris because he's flashed, but he's not all the way there, and they're not waiting. If Christian Harris comes in and, because they didn't know what his injury was last year, and it kind of felt like he wasn't, are you injured or you hurt? Like, we need you on the field here. And that didn't go well with DeMeco, so they bring on the E.J. Speed to bring insurance there. Now Nick Chubb is in. What does that mean for the third-year running back Dameon Pierce? He's likely traded or gone. And again, I don't know what the result will be. I just like the extreme sense of urgency that wasn't good enough. We're cleaning house.
Yeah.
And our defense is ready to be a championship-level defense, but that wasn't good enough. And anybody that was any part of that, we're going to look at you crooked, and we might cut you loose.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they cleaned it, and we'll find out the results. I, as a fan, like the sense of urgency. They know their window is this year and next year, most likely, before you're signing C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson to mega contracts. I like it.
Yeah, I like it too. I mean, we're going to see what the O-line is. That's still the biggest question mark, right? Obviously, Tunsil's gone. You made trades, but that was obviously what they needed. They need some youth They needed some just different voices in there. And then also the defense has been fantastic, but going to get a guy like that, like you said, speed's a good pickup. You can't be complacent with these guys and wait for them to get good. You got to put the pressure on them. And I love what they did in the draft, even going back to that. This Chubb signing's great because you need a true RB2. I think going to get Woody Marks, right, from USC, and then also getting now Nick Chubb as your
Jason Higgins and Jalen Noah.
And that's where I was going there.
And
Getting more receiver options so you're not just waiting around for guys to get healthy. I mean, plain and simple.
And Christian Kirk was added.
And Braxton Barrios was there too, right?
Yeah, they've got, and I think it was clear they wanted to change the attitude. And so they were disappointed that some of the veterans in their locker room, especially on the offensive line, weren't leading.
Yeah.
Like Shaq Mason's won Super Bowls. Laramie Tunsil's an all-pro player. But they weren't bringing the leadership to get the offense fixed that it takes, right? The alpha dogs. And so they went and get a Nick Chubb, who is an absolute alpha if there is one.
Oh, yeah. Ultimate locker room guy from what everyone says in Cleveland. And that's, if you're a locker room guy in Cleveland, like that speaks volumes.
And they want some of that veteran presence that'll kick some ass when C.J. Stroud's getting pounded again, if he's getting pounded again. That's and that's how DeMeco Ryans played, right? Yeah, and that's how he wants his defense, and now he wants his offense to play that way. I'll be interested to see how it goes. I mean, they brought in and they've rebuilt the offense. I like the sense of urgency. The question in Cowboys camp continues to be the lack of urgency on getting a Micah Parsons deal done. It is now, Brian Schottenheimer will lead his first mini camp with his new staff starting today. Reports are that Micah Parsons and Trevon Diggs will be there at the first practice. Do they participate or do they not? Micah Parsons already made it pretty clear that he won't participate in training camp if he doesn't have a deal done, but that's up to Jerry Jones. We'll see. Does something move this week when everybody gets back together for the mini camp before they depart for the month? I would also say, should the Cowboys consider signing cornerback Jaire Alexander?
They should.
Who's now been officially released by the Packers. You're a Lions. Seen this guy. He's only 28 years old. There's huge question marks surrounding Trayvon Diggs opposite DeRon Bland. This, where they're desperate, this could end up being a kind of a blessing that the Packers cut this guy loose.
100% when he's on the field. I mean, it felt like he was injured half the year. That was kind of the issue and probably why the Packers didn't want to sign him again. So, I mean, but you need help at that position. You're dealing with injuries yourself, and he's healthy currently. So if I'm the Cowboys, I would definitely take a stab at that. That makes a ton of sense to me. A team that needs it right now. They won't
be the only one interested, and that's where Jerry Jones is going to have to get in and wheel and deal. But that would be a nice pickup. There's a lot of teams looking for a top-level corner who's 28 years old who's just come on the market here in June. All right.